This is the Aurora Australis, and this short sequence reflects about 5 minutes of long exposure photos. And this here is a real-time video of what you could approximately see with your eyes. I was able to capture this shot with my Canon R6 and the TT Artisan 50mm f/0.95 open fully wide. I was able to get enough ambient light to make out the faint pink hues and green tinge that made up the aurora in the night sky. Of course, it's nothing to really compare to the long exposure sequence of photos, and perhaps my biggest regret is that I didn't actually sit there for an hour straight just to continuously take shot after shot, one shot per second, to later compose it into a longer sequence and make a little cinematic clip of the aurora. Like most people, I imagine, I knew that there was a solar storm in progress, but I had no idea I'd be able to see the aurora in my city. So I didn't get here until quite late at night. It was approximately 9 PM. I just drove to the closest beach so I could get a clearer view down south without looking across too many city lights, and set up my tripod on the jetty here. So there's still quite a lot of light pollution around, but when looking through my camera's viewfinder and setting to a longer exposure setting, you could start to really pick it out. It's kind of funny how many people were actually walking by, commenting, wondering what I was taking photos of, because for most of them they were coming straight from the brightly lit sidewalk, so their eyes hadn't quite adjusted to the darkness, and it was really quite dim to make out. I suppose this experience is a lesson in planning and thinking ahead, because with a bit more preparation I could have set up for quite a long time lapse and sequence to get that really beautiful cinematic waving of the northern lights that you see people put online. Unfortunately, I would have had to set up straight after sunset, and I wasn't aware. I spent probably too much time experimenting with different settings and slightly different positions to reduce the ambient light and maximize what I could see of the northern lights without taking a long exposure longer than 5 seconds, which would actually blur out a lot of the movement of the aurora. I found the best settings for me were about a 1 second exposure, roughly 2,500 to 4,000 ISO depending on the strength of the aurora itself. I cycled through 3 prime lenses. Started with my Samyang 85mm f1.4, as I thought it would be probably the highest quality and widest aperture lens that I had, but the results weren't that great. I found that the Canon RF 16mm f2.8, despite being quite a small lens with a small aperture, was what gave me the best results in terms of the actual photographs and those sequence that I produced that you could see. But it's the TT Artisan 50mm f/0.95 that gave the most natural looking perspective of the human eye looking in the darkness at the faint glow of the aurora that you can see here. For comparison, this is straight out of camera what the 16mm f2.8 could make out of the aurora, but when you compare it to one of the photos I took, there's clearly a big difference once you let that exposure sit for a while. I'm constantly thinking about how I can do better work, and I think planning ahead and executing on that plan will definitely go a long way to producing better results. But at the same time, a lot of people are quite happy with the photos I managed to capture. This is definitely a once in a lifetime event. This is the first time I'd seen any aurora anywhere, so I'm glad I was able to capture this despite being unprepared, and sometimes you just got to make the most of the opportunities you can get and enjoy them for what they are. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll do my best to get some more content out when I have time, but for now enjoy the rest of the ambient video.